people are spending millions of dollars on branding. Like millionaires are spending that amount of money on branding in order to get their personal brand up. And we people who consume before need to hop on that as well. Otherwise, what is it gonna be like? If you do not document your journey, like I said before, right, and you have AI taking over, you're just one face amongst billions, right? Amongst billions of channels, for example. You cannot stand out. So the right time was maybe 2 years ago. The second best time is today.
This is Alexander. Welcome, Alexander. Alex is a dropout turned entrepreneur running a 7-figure agency, and he's helped a lot of new creators get into UGC, specifically young men who felt stuck in their 9-to-5s because he went through it himself. But Alex, you know your story the best. Let me know.
Absolutely do. Thank you, Gloria. So basically, in contrast to a lot of other entrepreneurs, like young entrepreneurs, I actually worked in a 9-to-5. A lot of them just were in college. That was it. I was actually in college studying computer science full-time and also working my 9-to-5 tech job full-time while I was starting to build this business that I'm running now. And I started working with UGC creators basically a couple of years ago. I'm from Germany, if you can't tell by my accent, but
a little bit.
I started working with a lot of actually German UGC creators, German travel creators, like digital nomads, to help them basically monetize their audience, see how I can help them basically get into the niche, because I saw that the creator economy was such a big thing that I wanted to capitalize on it. It was just fucking better than working a 9-to-5, to be honest. And so, long story short, took the leap, literally quit everything, dropped out of college, quit my 9-to-5, sold my apartment, sold my car. I have literally no belongings. I live how I want to live right now, travel the world. Nothing is stopping me. I'm making life-changing income, like things that I could have not dreamed of before, right? That is my reality currently. And I don't have to work a 9-to-5 ever again in my life at the age of 22. And now we've traveled Southeast Asia for about 6 months, a little bit more. That is what a lot of men, young men specifically, are dreaming of. This is what I was dreaming of, right, when I started out a couple of years ago, which is what I'm living.
And I'm super, super curious because you've had this arc where you worked a 9-to-5 and it was a pretty steady, stable income, you mentioned, and then you went all in on your business. So what caused you to go all in on your agency? Because a lot of men are at that 9-to-5 mark. They're not going in. Maybe have dreams and ambitions and goals, but they're not going all in. So what helped you pull the trigger? Yeah,
basically, also contrary to what a lot of people see online now with entrepreneurs starting out, they're like, oh my God, I hit rock bottom. I have no savings. I'm in debt. Life is terrible. My boss is pissing me off. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to wake up. That was never me, to be honest. I always had a little bit of savings, like a little bit of cushion. And yet I was still pretty miserable and I didn't enjoy the life that I was living. And so it was less of like a dramatic event that happened, right? Or me hitting rock bottom. I hit rock bottom mentally and I paced myself, my future self, into the future. Basically, I looked at, if I follow this path, where is it going to lead up? Nowhere near where I want to be. And I decided to change that pretty much. And that's that mental switch or that realization is what holds a lot of men back, because if they would have realized it earlier on, like if they would have seen the symptoms and the stuff that is happening nowadays, they would have made the switch as well.
And I suppose it's different for everyone. Was it more so of like looking at your goals and them motivating you, or looking behind at, what life could have been if you stayed the same? Like what actually did that kind of future pace look like?
Very good question. So it was actually both. It was a fear of not realizing my potential that I knew I had. Like I knew I had this in me, right? My grades were always pretty okay, right? Again, stable job, right? I had nothing to complain about technically, but I knew that I had so much more in me, and the fear of not becoming that person is what crippled me really, or what gave me a lot of anxiety, which is what I wanted to get away from. Now, the thing that I was running towards is that goal, right? I dreamed about having a penthouse, Everybody, like young men specifically, they dream about having a I don't know, Porsche 911, something like that. My dream car back then was actually a BMW M5 competition matte black. Very specific, incredible car for those who know cars. And I had these little dreams that I had, like penthouse, car, I don't know. A girlfriend was back then also a big dream of mine, right? Fulfillment, and obviously making life-changing money, not being stuck in a 9 to 5. And so it was a push and a pull, right? I was pulling towards my goals and was pushing away from the things behind me, basically.
Since you're a man, Alex, obviously, I would love to ask you about the specific experience of men trying to get into business. You have achieved what a lot of like young men want to achieve by all standards. So what did you have to do, and what are men not doing to move their life forward in that direction?
Yeah, I think young men nowadays, they struggle a lot. Mainly, maybe not with actually executing, that's the second step, but the first step is, what do I actually do? Like, who do I trust? Who do I follow? Because we live in a society currently, I don't know if you noticed this, but I definitely have, where you have what is called the trust recession. So basically, you see these kids, basically, that have not accomplished a lot of things of value. Basically, they rented, I don't know, a Urus. You can rent a Urus at this point at like 6K a month, right? Mm-hmm. You only need to make a couple of K a month in order to rent a nice car, portray yourself as a guru, and basically market through lifestyle, right? That's what a lot of these young men do. And this reflects in a society. People fell for it back in the day. Now it's a trust recession, so they stop believing in it, which is good because it's a fugazi. It doesn't exist, right? It's a mirage, basically. And there is a lot of fake gurus out there, and not many real ones, right? Not many real ones out there. There's a lot of fake leaders. For example, like me going through self-improvement and being in that space, like consuming the content there. I don't know. I don't know how much you know about the male improvement space, but Hamza, right? Fake, hopped on steroids like years ago and was basically promising something that could not be accomplished like naturally, he says. Like not a good leader. Jack Hopkins, for example, like people who follow these people, like know them, the male improvement space. Jack Hopkins, pretty surface level, have nothing against the guy really, but doesn't really go in depth into like business knowledge, how to build a business. Like a lot of it is like mindset, which is cool, but you actually need to have the tactical knowledge in order to implement. Everybody knows Andrew Tate. I think what's happening right now is he's growing old, like he's going a little bit stale. So he's trying to stay relatable, basically, like hopping on trends with like, who was the guy? Clavicular, right? Think about Clavicular. He shills steroids, right? Yeah. Which is what I know about him, right? Andrew Tate hopped on him.
Because he's young.
Absolutely. He's in the trend. No regard for the morals. Like Andrew Tate does like crypto rug pulls. Not very cool, right? People who start following Clavicular, dudes be talking about frame mogging when they are broke, right? Which I don't understand. Yeah. Like how can you place so much trust and have so much conviction in a person that is fundamentally fake, that is not teaching you anything, and you are in a position where you don't want to be in, right? Following somebody who shields steroids and talking about frame mogging, like this whole brain rot culture, it never appealed to me really, and people are waking up, I feel like you're broke and still thinking about frame mogging. Sorry to let out my Andrew Tate for a second there, but I think what we have right now is a pendulum, right? And it swings from side to side. So right now, I feel like you have two sides of the pendulum. You have what was before, like a couple of years ago, like it tended towards weakness. Like you have weak men on one side, and then you have the other extreme, which is Andrew Tate on the other side. And I feel like right now, it was on the one side, weak men, it swung to Andrew Tate, and now I think it's beginning to swing back again, right? Because people realized that it was all fake, basically. And so I feel like what men are struggling with is finding a path, fundamentally. It's knowing who to follow. Because here's what doesn't work out, what I realized myself, traditional path, right? You need to finish college. You need to get into a 9 to 5. You need to, stick to it for 30 years. And then at some point, hopefully retire when we're old, probably not even at 65 or 70, probably like 75, 80, right? Work your ass off for like 60 years. Good luck. And obviously that doesn't work out. I realized it. I feel like the job market right now, specifically in the US, is cooked. Do you know the underemployment statistics, Gloria?
No.
It's fucking crazy. It's like, so I'm going to read this out for you. I have it right here. listen to this. 42.5% of graduates are underemployed, meaning they have a job which doesn't require their degree. Basically, like the finance guy or the finance grad working at Starbucks, right? Or the science major doing like data entry, like basic data entry. Basically, they're technically employed, so they don't show up in unemployment statistics, but they have a degree that didn't get them anywhere. Like they're in a job role that a degree was not required for. And that's literally what almost half of people are going through right now, 42.5%.
Yeah.
And I believe in this one thing. If you would have spent the same amount of energy and time and literally thousands of dollars just investing that into a business instead of a college degree, I freaking guarantee you that there is more than a 60% chance that you're making more than $50 an hour or whatever Starbucks pays, right? I guarantee you. And once I've read this, I was like, fantastic. I'm so glad that I got out of this at such a young age. Again, at 22, I have to never worry about money basically again. Over the past couple of years, I've never looked at the bill when I'm on a date, for example. I just pay. I don't even have to worry about it. And that gives me such tremendous freedom. I can do literally whatever I want, wherever I want, with whomever I want. And that at 22 currently. I believe Fight Club has a good analogy about this. I feel like men are being misled fundamentally. We are raised in a generation of slaves in white collars. I don't know if you know that quote from the movie. Have you watched Fight Club?
I have.
Fantastic. So you know that quote.
Yes.
Basically, we get a job we hate in order to afford things that mean nothing to us. They don't make us happy. So we turn into consumers. And here's the thing, like the point that people miss about Fight Club is that it is so much harder right now than it was back in the day. Like literally, we have an overabundance of resources. We have food, we have shelter, right? We have safety, we have security. And so we have no existential threat that we can see, that you can feel. Like you can see and feel starvation. You cannot see the problems that men are dealing with right now. It is like we have no barbarians that we have to fight against. There are no barbarians at our footsteps that want to slaughter our women and children, right? It is intangible. And so intangible versus tangibles. Back in the day, it was tangible enemies. Right now, it's intangible enemies. It's a system that you're placed in, like you don't know any better, which is why it's so much harder to fight against this. And which is why, to your earlier question, a lot of men like don't wake up, basically. They don't see what is happening currently.
It's kind of like spiritual warfare, right? It's like there's physical warfare, like hundreds and hundreds of years ago, right? But now it's like physical warfare, where it's like all in the head, and like they have to, like men and women have to make those decisions for themselves to not be consumers. So I think it's different.
You know where a lot of mental warfare is going on, right? It's the system itself. It's like video games. It's scrolling on social media. That's where a lot of this mental warfare comes. Like porn is a big thing. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that even online on YouTube right now. But porn is a big thing. Like, have you ever struggled with that?
No.
Right. Have you ever? I'm not trying to expose you, but
is that a big thing? Since I've never watched porn.
It actually is, and I'll tell you why. It's connected to men. I mean, men and women fundamentally struggle with this. I'm a man, so I'm going to speak from my perspective sincerely here. Again, men have been misled on both sides, I believe. Right. This is another thing that they have been misled on. I'm going to say one controversial opinion. Contrary to what a lot of people or a lot of men see in the self-improvement space, I fundamentally am not against relationships. Like, what do we hear from people like Hamza, for example? You have never, like, seriously consumed it, but it's like, never get into a relationship, right? Never trust a woman, right? Never fall in love. Just focus on yourself, bro, basically. And I have a contrary opinion to that, and I believe fundamentally men get this advice because it is for the quote-unquote normies, like people, like men who don't know any better, right? And so this is advice that applies generally, not to the individual. So for example, for me, like it never applied. I definitely had periods where I was like going through a grinding phase, as you call it, and I was abstinent. I didn't talk to women, and a lot of men never really go through that. So that was BS for me. I was never blue-pilled, as you say, right? So I was never like, oh my God, women are the end-all and be-all. And what I see nowadays is men are looking, or like people are looking for this quick fix, right? They have the struggle, right? They're being misled by the system. They're struggling with dating, for example, which is what I saw a lot of men struggling with, especially in college, right? Is they look for quick fixes. Here's the truth. There are no quick fixes in life. So we've traveled a lot in Southeast Asia, right? And so what we see is like a lot of tourists traveling to Southeast Asia thinking all of a sudden they're going to be gods in Thailand, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to get themselves a Thai girlfriend or whatever. Reality is, if you are a loser back home, probably going to be a loser here, right? And so it is fundamentally still like you cannot have a quick fix. You still need to build yourself up as a man, which is the point that I'm trying to get to. So it's all fundamentally like a status game. Like all you're trying to play as a man is a status game. A lot of things we do is for status, basically. And for example, in Thailand, I did have a camera woman, and the amount of status that gave me, having that woman follow me around pretty much the entirety of my day, being my personal assistant, quote unquote, is immeasurable, which was actually my dream, by the way. I dreamt of a couple of things when I was starting out. Mm-hmm. It was like, as I said, right, Asian camera woman, penthouse, BMW M5, right? Big ones for me. Yeah. And retiring my parents too, right? That was a big one. Especially, I come from an immigrant family, so my parents immigrated from Russia to Germany about 25 years ago. They had nothing. Like, my dad tells me all the time, he came into the country, he tells me, with a bike and a backpack. Wow. That's it. The things that they achieved coming from that background is astonishing. Like, my grandparents are doctors on one side of the family. You know what they got paid in Russia? They got paid with rice. Wow. In noodles, like pasta, because there was no money, which is why they immigrated, right? And since then, my father has built 3 houses. He has built with his own hands. He has built a house for his mother. He has built a house for the mother of my mother, my grandmother, and he's built a house for himself, for his family, for my family. Which is why I feel like this drives a lot of young men especially. I could have not been in this place if my parents have not laid the first stones. And so we want to give back to them. And this is what I'm aspiring towards, right? And so a nice side effect of that is, of course, you have the status to attract women, basically not putting in any effort. So when it comes to dating, I put in very little effort, to be honest. What I noticed that how strong a personal brand is, right? And so what I'm doing right now, you know what I was told? I was told that on social media, I look cold and I look upset at the world. That's literally what a girl has told to me when she, actually got to know me in person, but then looked at my social media. This is real feedback from the customer, so to say, right? Real feedback from the customer. And so I'm going into that now. I'm putting a lot of my eggs in that basket of building a personal brand because I see how actually powerful it is for attracting inbounds, if you know what I mean. I also have my assistant on these dating apps sending out messages too, because you got to cover the outbound as well. But really having a personal brand and attraction, right, instead of chasing after it is really the biggest thing, and helps you. In like young men out there, this helps you in everything, in business later on, in connections, in dating, in life in general, building a skill set, like building that personal brand and building a skill set of producing good looking content, which makes you look good online, is going to be the most valuable real estate that you will own. It's not going to be your house, damn well not going to be your car, because that's not an asset, but it's going to be the presence on social media, the real estate that you take up in the internet, basically. And the things that you can showcase about yourself. That's going to be the most important part. To the point where, for example, in Thailand, I had a camera woman follow me around pretty much 24/7, right? Being my quote-unquote personal assistant. Imagine what that does to a man's status. Like, I was getting looks. I was getting looks because of that. And so, at the end of the day, is just status signaling, basically. And you need to have that very good social presence on social media in order to signal that status properly without having to put any effort in. So that's what I'm going into.
And speaking of women, what is it like working with a woman? Since we work together with our businesses, so we have a business together, what is it like working with women?
Good question. You're a woman. You are conventionally attractive.
I'd like to say so.
I have never felt tension, which is the opposite of what a lot of young men think and would feel in this kind of situation. And I'll tie it back to the main point, which is that I've noticed that a lot of men place women on such a high pedestal because they have not figured out themselves first. A lot of men feel this tension, they feel anxiety around women because they don't know who they are. They have not accomplished anything. Like, they have no accolades. Yeah. They haven't slain any beasts. They're still in college, working a 9 to 5, living a safe life. And so what that leads to is very low self-worth, I feel like. Because these men have not gone after it and accomplished these things. When you know who you are, working with somebody else, like a woman, for example, going into a relationship, it doesn't shake me at all. It's always just a bonus because you've built yourself up before that to be the kind of man that you aspire to be, obviously.
Yeah, talk about a little bit how we met.
So people always have this, I mentioned this before, have this grandiose story, right? You see all these gurus, they always talk about how they've hit rock bottom. You know, I am broke, I am in debt, I have no income, my life is terrible, my wife and children hate me. This was never me, to be fair. That was never me at all. I was living a quote-unquote normal life. I was, again, going to college, studying full-time computer science. I was working in a tech job, which actually had pretty good prospects. I was being groomed, not in a weird way, to become a manager in that job, right? So I was being trained by the manager himself. Pretty good pay. I was pretty much living on $2K a month. I was living in a flat with a roommate right next to the university, and rent was 1.2K. And so I always a little bit left over month after month. So I can never say that this is a rags to riches story, which a lot of people like to sell online. I can never say that. I was comfortable. I was pretty comfortable. I was okay. I was right on the line, right there. And I believe that's what actually, as we said, that's what hurts a lot of people the most, right? You have to have, of course, a pull towards your goals. But if you do not have that push, you have to have the push in your head. You have to create that in your mind, that scarcity. It's a good scarcity, right? You have an abundance around your goals, but you want to get away from a certain situation. And for people, it's just comfortable enough where they don't actually take that first step. Let me tell you one thing. Were you in college, by the way?
I was.
Did you ever live that frat kind of lifestyle?
I did not.
I'm going to tell you one thing. It's fucking fun. In a bad way. I'm telling you, there was a party going on every other day. Monday, Tuesday you sobered up. Wednesday you went into another party. On the weekends you probably had 2 parties that you could go to. So it was nonstop. In Germany we drank a lot of beer. So it was nonstop chugging beer. And in the moment it seemed fun. What I saw though, I looked around and again I future paced myself. I saw where that would end up. And it would, with a lot of men, it ends up at them being 30, 35 and fucking depressed. Because they have not captured their potential. Because they've wasted it. On hedonism, right? On chasing after the next high, which is not something I wanted to do. And so I decided then, again, I had this pull towards my goals. I had this push away from things that I did not want. And I went into this grinding phase, whatever you want to call it. Where I was in university, I was studying full time, I was working full time, and I was building the business, first starting to work with UGC creators and freelancers, right? Freelancing myself, building an agency, basically. You know what happened? I don't know if you went through this, but I started disassociating from the people that were around me. I physically could not relate to them anymore. You ever go through that?
A little bit, definitely.
And so I started to dissociate. I had the group chat. What I was doing back then was I was pretty much at work and I had 3 screens in front of me, and I was, working, doing the bare minimum on the 9 to 5 on one screen, and switching to the other one, right, building my business, sending some sort of email, then switching to the other one. And as soon as somebody knocked on the door or came in, I always had my heart rate went up by 20 beats per minute, and I had this spike of adrenaline, which is a lot of people who are building something on the side probably relate to. It was terrible. I wanted to get out of that situation as soon as possible. Every time I sat down to actually work in the corporate job, I felt empty. I was what am I, this is for nothing. I want to quit this anyways. What am I doing actually sitting here? This is pointless what I'm doing. And so it was this tumor that was growing inside of me where I was dissatisfied, and I thought that everything that I was doing is pointless because I was planning to quit anyways. And this went on. People talk about this and it seems like a Rocky montage where they just grind all the time. This was months. People don't realize this. In a clip, it's a couple of seconds. This took months for me to go over. And I started disassociating. I remember a couple of times where I was it's always the the boys in the group chat, right? The boys in the group chat, they're like, hey, you want to go out this weekend? Go to the pub. And I was like, fuck no, I do not. It's always the same places with the same people, the same faces, doing the same thing, which is basically just drinking, wasting life away, and running away from the hard thing, which is actually working towards their goals. Terrible. Didn't want to do it. And so what helped me in that phase, might sound crazy, it was becoming delusional. Like, I was delusional in the fact that I thought that I was better than others without having the actual results to prove so.
Wow.
Like, I was thinking and acting like I had already achieved my goal, which back then was like making 10K a month, for example, with my business, right? I was acting as if that was already true. And I thought like, oh, well, I went to the gym and I'm like, they don't know that I'm working this business.
Yeah.
Or I went to lectures, right? And I thought that, I'm better than them. I'm hustling on my business. I don't know if you know this meme, but it's like the guy going to the party and everybody's having a good time and you're standing in the corner, like being angry that nobody will acknowledge him, that, guys, don't you know that I'm working towards something? Always thinking that he's better. So I was very delusional. This actually helped me separate from the crowd around me. Because again, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so what I started doing is spending less time with the people that I don't want to become like, which was back then my friends. I still like them, right? But I was looking at people like mentors. We talked about mentors before. I was surrounding myself with mentors in my mind, at least, that I want to become like.
Yeah.
Right. And I was delusional in that way. I was comparing myself to them. I was working towards that higher goal. Skip forward to now. You know what my goal was back then? It was by March 2026, I wanted to make 2K a month with my business. That was my goal.
Yeah.
Like a couple of years ago. And by this time, I wouldn't even have had my bachelor's degree. Like, I dropped out before I could finish it. By March 2026, I was supposed to finish my bachelor's. In fact, the people that I surrounded myself with before, they were still in college, finishing their bachelor's degree, probably getting into a 9-to-5 now. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
I struggle with that all the time, like with the identity of who I've become now. And obviously, I'm way above 2K a month now. Like, thank God. And I would have never thought this possible, really. I am waking up now in my high-rise apartment, basically. The sun in Vietnam is rising over the beach, over the waves, over the horizon. Mm-hmm. I'm tanning, right? I'm tanning on the terrace. It's beautiful.
So what's the way out?
I can't say what to do, but I can say what I did, right? So what I did, again, contrary to popular belief, starting a business is fucking hard. A lot of people try to sell the dream that, it's so easy. You just click a couple of buttons, and then you're rich. It's not like that at all. First, an agency, starting the business that I started, is pretty unsexy. Like, nobody thinks about an agency owner as like, oh my God, I would love to become like that guy.
Yeah.
Right? So it's an unsexy business model, and also it's freaking hard. And to be honest with you, Gloria, without your network, starting out from the beginning, I don't think we would have been nearly as successful as we are now, because you brought in a lot of creators, a lot of brands that you're working with. Obviously, I brought in my connections, but only through us combining was like this really possible. Know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What I would do, instead of starting an unsexy business like an agency, I would have probably just done something, to be honest. Just started with some sort of thing that will build a skill set that I could go into later on. And you hear this a lot. It's like, boys, we just gotta lock in. Like, what the fuck do I even lock into? Mm-hmm. Like, there are so many options at this point. Is it e-com? Unlikely. You need to create a whole product. Is it dropshipping? You need to deal with Chinese suppliers, right? Terrible. Your product is 3 weeks of delivery, and the customers are blaming you. Basically, that's the dropshipping experience. SMMA, good luck standing out. Every person and their moms starting an SMMA, or a social media marketing agency at this point, right? Freelancing, how about you build yourself a worse job, which is basically what freelancing is. Like, believe me, I've done that, right? So that wasn't the case. So what I really believe in, and what I'm getting into now, it's called UGC.
Should men get into UGC? Is that what you're saying?
Should they?
I think, yeah, fuck it. I think every single person should get into UGC, no matter if you're a man, woman, anything like that. Because UGC is one of those business models where you can whip out your phone, We've all been Snapchatting before, Instagramming, posting stories, taking selfies, taking videos, FaceTiming. That's basically UGC in a nutshell. But you're doing it authentically for brands, for their products. So I think every single person, no matter who you are, where you're from, what gender you are, should be a UGC creator, because it's a simple way to just start the entrepreneurship journey.
I can only say what I've been seeing, and especially with the people in our community, especially like the men that I've seen. I've resisted going into UGC myself for the longest time. I know you tried to convince me to do it over so many months. And to be honest, I resisted it, but now I realize that it probably is the easiest thing to get into. And so what I see is just the women and men in our community, right, that are doing pretty well. For example, for some reason, men, if you've seen this, in their like 40s are doing extremely well. Yes. And then younger men like around 20 something. Yeah. For example, we have men in their 40s, right? We have Jared. I always say, guy with the best looking beard ever. Put that guy in a suit and make him shill insurance. I will buy anything, right? This is what basically UGC is, right? You're selling a product for a company that you didn't have to create yourself, unlike ecom. I'll buy anything from that guy. Also, for example, Joe, like mid 40s, I believe, like approaching 50. And he comes from a tech background. And I think it's a combination of this trust factor of you being a little bit more mature. And then also like you're an
assertive, confident.
Absolutely. You're an older guy and you don't see many older guys going into UGC, which is why it works so well with him. And then also on a contrast is younger men. Like, for example, Andreas, 16, going into UGC, that guy has closed 1.5K deals in a school bathroom.
Yeah, he's 5 to 10K per month right now.
See, like helping his parents because they have a business as well, like sell that products. Pretty amazing individual. I would say this, if you're not making at least, like Andreas, for example, at 16, 10K a month with UGC, like what are you doing? Like, if you just start something like that, and know what to do, there is literally no way that it could fail. You know what I hear from a lot of men? It's like, I don't want to get in front of the camera. I think it's gay to act in front of a camera. I'll tell you one thing. I will act gay in front of a camera if it means that I can close the deal. You know me. I'll do pretty much anything in order to close it, right? And so, sure, you don't want to act that way. Do you want to make money? Like, I don't understand some people that have resistance against that when fundamentally they're not in a position that they should complain about. They should, do whatever it takes, which is what I did. I did whatever it takes. It wasn't easy, but I would say one thing. This makes me so passionate because people have like this resistance against it. Like, I don't want to be in front of a camera, right? Yeah. Oh, what about like I don't have any time? Or what about my children? Like I want to provide for them.
What about the people around me? What about my hometown? Everything.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, and like, is there something else you want to tell me, or like, what am I supposed to say? Congratulations, right? Stay where you are. Don't make that step. Then,
of course, it's gonna be uncomfortable if you want to take that step.
Absolutely. And here's what I would say. Looking back, is it the thing that is gonna make you a millionaire? Probably not, right? Being a UGC creator. Is it the thing that you're gonna do for the rest of your life? Probably not. But is it the easiest thing to get into nowadays, especially as a young guy, because there's so much less competition than for girls too? Absolutely, 100%. And so what do you think is worse? Is it looking awkward in front of a camera or not achieving your potential ever?
Obviously not achieving your potential.
Absolutely. Not having known the things that you're capable of.
And you don't know that until you take the step.
I agree. And I believe, where does fulfillment come from? And it's not like the money or the material, belongings, the material wealth, although that thing is nice and it definitely like drove me in the past. I've achieved that now, which is why it doesn't drive me anymore, which is why what I realized actually drives me and a lot of young men is progressing towards your higher self instead of being happy with what was given to you and what was expected of you.
Yeah, for sure. So what is one thing that you would say to somebody who wants to get into online business, but they say they can't, or they're doubting themselves, or they're going through that like mental loop?
Why are they saying that they can't get into an online business? What do you say? Like, is it time or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's time, or they're scared of what people think, or it's just not real around their situation. Nobody around them is doing it.
I would say the same thing. It's like, okay, and do you want like a pity party to be thrown for you? Like, fight through it. What is the alternative actually? They say, I can't because I have a job. I don't have any time, or I have kids that I need to support. And I say, great. The thing that you think is standing in the way of you doing it should be the exact reason why you do it in the first place. Like, why use it as an excuse? I don't have any time, or I have to feed my kids. This is the exact reason why you're even getting into it in the first place, is it not?
So Alex, what is like one piece of advice you'd give to men that want to start a business, get out of their jobs, and not live an average life?
So you're already out of the first bucket pretty much. You're in a second bucket, which is, I would say first, congratulations. I think the first step is realizing that there is something wrong fundamentally, although there's nothing wrong on paper. Like, this self-reflection, this recognition is literally the first step that you need to take in order to, like, the fact that people are watching this on YouTube, for example, or on Instagram, instead of scrolling on TikTok, like doom scrolling, or even worse, watching porn, or, playing video games. That's already, I think, a big step. Right. So first I want to appreciate that, because that is literally the first step. The things that you consume, right? Your information diet. If you eat shit, you're going to feel like shit. If you consume shit on the internet, again, you're going to feel like shit. So cutting that out, already a good step, or going more towards the better sources of information, like this, for example, right? I would say one thing. Document your journey. Looking back, I regret that I have not documented my journey, like not at all. And I thought back to it, and I was like, why didn't I do that? And I thought, what if this fails? What if that fails? Maybe my friends are going to look at me and laugh. Cool.
That's the exact reason to document it.
Absolutely. You're probably going to be more relatable if you actually document something. Like if you sit down and say that, oh, guys, I'm going to post twice a day for the next 90 days, and my goal is to reach X amount of followers on IG. Even if you fail and you document it, you can be like, okay, guys, by the way, this is what not to do. I tried it out for you. Please do not make the same mistakes. And people still have value from it. Like, it is not energy spent for nothing. And you probably, again, you're very relatable. You probably build a skill set while doing so that is going to open more opportunities later on. Opportunities multiply as they are seized, which basically means that once you take one opportunity, your eyes will open. You will see multiple opportunities be put forth in front of you that you can then take, that you did not see before.
Exactly.
So the thing that we're trying to leverage here, right, documenting things online, which I wish I would have done, is called the Hawthorne's effect. Gloria, if you would explain the Hawthorne's effect.
Hawthorne's effect is simple. When you have a camera on, or you act like there's a camera on, right? You go around life, there's a mini camera on everywhere. You're obviously going to perform better. When people are watching you, you're going to perform better, and that's the life hack. That's a life hack to become your higher self. That's a life hack to become the best version of yourself that's always in the back of your mind. The future version of yourself that does what she says she's going to do. Or what he's going to do. Goes to the gym, has the diet, stops freaking doom scrolling, stops scrolling their life away, stops watching Netflix, right? Doing the bad things that deep down your conscious knows that you shouldn't do. And that's the Hawthorne's effect, where you hold yourself to a higher standard by thinking that people are watching you, and that's posting content. It's a life hack to get there. Would you agree?
I absolutely say so. That was a very good explanation. Right, it's a psychological effect of humans. When they think they're being watched, they will perform differently / they will perform better, because they have an expectation to live up to, which is what they think other people will think about them. Right, and so again, even if it fails, you at least have something that you did that you can then show other people that it failed. Probably be relatable as well as heck, and then show people like, guys, this is not what not to do, by the way. Don't make the same mistakes. Probably have more opportunities afterwards. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of redoing it, right? Because I didn't document my journey before, which is my advice for people starting out, regardless of where you're at currently. Document your journey, set yourself a goal, hold yourself accountable by the public opinion, the opinion of others. Like, use that drive from status to your advantage, I would say. And I'm kind of redoing it now, where what I'm doing is I'm documenting basically my journey from 0 to 10K a month as a UGC creator, right? I don't know if you saw that nice little series on Instagram.
I did.
That I kicked off. I have just seen how powerful a personal brand can be, especially like even people who are millionaires and billionaires, they're starting their personal brands. They already have the money, right? But they see that there is a way more valuable resource, which is attention, right? We live in an attention market, an interest economy, right? So we're leveraging interest of others, building a personal brand. This is what I've realized for myself, which is why I'm starting to create content now. What I would say is, again, build a personal brand too, especially in the advance of AI, right? We saw this AI slop. It's a bunch of like very plain looking stuff that people fundamentally can't relate to, just being mass produced by AI, especially in a time like people are scared of this, especially in a time like this where there's AI slop. I would 100% bank on what makes you unique. Like an AI cannot live the life that you have lived and replicate the experiences that you have experienced, basically. Like only you could have lived your life and you had these authentic experiences. You can tell your story, which is what you build your personal brand on, basically.
And that makes you authentic. And
so by the time this podcast comes out, I'll probably have a couple of more episodes of that journey of the documentation coming out. So if people want to check that out, if you want to see that journey, go follow me on IG. The link will be in the description. And so building a personal brand is only the first step, right? How do you actually monetize it? How do you make money from it? Because what is content for ultimately? Maybe it's fun for you, but you want to make money from it, obviously, just like I did. I'm a businessman first and then a content creator second, fundamentally. Like it's fun creating content. I make good looking content, I feel like, but how do you actually make money from it? And what a lot of men are now going into is like UGC, right, as we talked about. And so I guess here's for the people who want a little bit of help with that, especially young men, because I have a need as an agency for young men going into UGC right now. I have clients that I need to fulfill contracts for. So if I would say this, if you're a man currently, and if you want to work with me personally, me and my agency, the link to apply will be in the description for that one.
Well, Alex, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for answering these questions. I've been dying to know.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, Alex. Any final words for anyone watching this?
I would say this. If you're on the fence, what is the alternative? The alternative to not starting is what? Being in the same place that you do not like to be in. And I'll say this one thing. I don't want to be this doom and gloom guy who says that, oh my God, this is a limited time opportunity or whatever. I see that depending on the market, this is literally a 2 to 3 year opportunity going into the creator economy that people are spending millions of dollars on branding, like millionaires are spending that amount of money on branding in order to get their personal brand up. And we, people who consume before, need to hop on that as well. Otherwise, what is it gonna be like? If you do not document your journey, like I said before, right, and you have AI taking over, you're just one face amongst billions, right? Amongst billions of channels, for example. You cannot stand out. So the right time was maybe 2 years ago. The second best time is today, right? And so I don't want to sell this as like a limited time opportunity, but literally, if you do not start now, just from a reality perspective, then you'll probably miss out on a lot of the gain because you're going to drown in a sea of AI. So better start now, documenting your journey, being public, leveraging the Hawthorne's effect, documenting your journey, right? Building a name for yourself, being authentic, showing people the ups and the downs, which is what I'm doing now. And doing that now is the best time.